Hi, I'm Ollie. I got an A star in A-level politics, and I'm going to be going through two really boring recent examples to use in your A-level politics essays. It's not just the examples that you'll see in the news that you can use in your A-level politics essays. In fact, particularly for the UK government section of the specification that covers things like devolution, the constitution, and parliament, there's really important recent examples that can be really useful in your essays that you're just not going to see in the news. So hopefully these two will be helpful. Okay, the first example is the Medical Training Prioritisation Bill, which on the 27th of January was rushed through all of its House of Commons stages in just 6 hours. So this bill would create a system for prioritising the allocation of medical training places, with priority given to graduates of UK medical schools. So it's an important bill that would have a big effect on thousands of doctors. But despite this, it was rushed through the House of Commons stages, all of the stages, in a single sitting, which is a maximum of 6 hours, after being introduced by the government on an emergency timetable. And this can be seen as a really strong example for the lack of effectiveness in legislative scrutiny in the UK Parliament, because rushing legislation through Parliament risks that lack of scrutiny. Backbenchers and the opposition in particular aren't given the opportunity to truly scrutinise really important pieces of legislation that have a big impact on people's lives, and that can result in really poor legislation with mistakes, or effectively the government, because they control the parliamentary timetable, being able to effectively introduce what they want, irrespective of the impact that it's going to have or whether it's popular, because it's not given proper time for scrutiny. This being said, it wasn't rushed through in the House of Lords. So its second reading, committee stage and report stage, and the third reading in the House of Lords all took place on separate days. So this can be seen as an example of how actually the House of Lords is really key to legislative scrutiny in the UK, especially when legislative scrutiny in the House of Commons is lacking, because the government's got more power in the House of Commons in relation to the parliamentary timetable, and often MPs are simply doing other things. They're meeting their constituents, they're thinking about policy and media, rather than doing the real work of scrutinising legislation, which now often falls to the House of Lords. So yeah, quite a boring example, one you probably wouldn't have come across, but a really good recent example of legislation being rushed through Parliament and the impact that has on scrutiny. Okay, the next boring example is in relation to devolution, and that's the fact that the Northern Irish Parliament has introduced graduated driver's licences, so a new kind of driver's licence, particularly for young drivers who've just become drivers effectively. So in January 2025, Northern Ireland Executive introduced this new scheme of graduated driver licences for young drivers with the aim of reducing serious accidents and